I froze in the doorway, my keys still jangling in my hand. 3 shirtless men stood in my father's kitchen, drinks raised, laughing like they owned the place. My brain couldn't process it fast enough. I'd only driven back to grab my phone charger, the one I'd left plugged in by the microwave 2 hours ago after stopping by for our usual Wednesday catch-up. The house should have been quiet. Dad and Linda usually watch their crime shows around this time, maybe had a glass of wine. Normal, boring, safe. Instead, I stood there in the dim kitchen light, staring at 3 strangers who definitely weren't watching Netflix. "Oh, hey there," one of them said, a guy maybe in his 50s with a graying beard and a beer belly that suggested he'd stopped caring about the gym years ago. He didn't seem embarrassed or surprised. Just casual, like finding your daughter sneaking in through the back door while half-naked strangers occupied your kitchen was completely normal. I didn't respond. Couldn't. My throat had closed up. The charger, I could see it, right there on the counter where I'd left it, 5 steps away, maybe 6. I moved on autopilot, my sneakers squeaking against the tile floor. The men shifted slightly, making room, still talking among themselves like I was just another guest at whatever this was. One of them had tattoos covering his arms. Another wore expensive-looking watch that caught the light. That's when I heard it, a sound from the living room, loud, unmistakable, female, moaning. My hand closed around my charger cord, and I should have left right then. Should have walked straight back out that door, gotten in my car, and driven home to my tiny apartment where things made sense. Where fathers were just fathers, and stepmothers were just stepmothers, and Wednesday nights were just Wednesday nights. But I didn't move. The moaning got louder, more theatrical, punctuated by male voices I couldn't quite make out. The 3 men in the kitchen exchanged knowing glances, smirking into their drinks. One of them checked his watch, like he was waiting for his turn at the DMV. "You good?" The bearded guy asked me. "Want a beer?" I shook my head, still clutching my charger like it was a lifeline. Then I heard my father's voice, clear as day, drifting from the living room. "That's it, sweetheart. Take his dick." Just like that. The charger fell from my hand, clattering against the counter. I ran. Through the kitchen, out the back door, across the driveway to where my Honda sat under the streetlight. My hands shook so badly I could barely get the key in the ignition. When the engine finally turned over, I peeled out of there so fast my tires squealed against the asphalt. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over. My whole body was trembling, my breath coming in short gasps that fogged up the windshield. I cranked down the window, letting the cool October air hit my face, trying to clear my head. What the hell had I just walked into? My phone buzzed in my pocket. A text from Dad. "Thought I heard a car. Everything okay?" I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. Everything okay? Was he serious? Did he know I'd been there? Had he seen me? I didn't respond. Couldn't figure out what to say. "Hey, Dad, yeah, just grab my charger while you were directing a live porn show in your living room. That go over well?" I drove home in a daze, my mind replaying everything on a loop. The shirtless men, the sounds from the living room, my father's voice, Linda's moans, the casual way those strangers had looked at me, like I was interrupting their book club instead of something that belonged on a subscription website. My apartment felt too quiet when I got back. I locked the door, double-checked it, then stood in my kitchen trying to decide if I was going to throw up or pass out. Neither happened. Instead, I paced. Living room to bedroom to kitchen and back again, wearing a path in my cheap carpet. I'd known Dad had remarried fast after Mom died. Linda came into his life barely a year later, all blonde highlights and yoga pants, and that laugh that sounded like wind chimes. I tried to be happy for him, tried to accept that people grieve differently, that he needed companionship, that Mom would have wanted him to move on. But this wasn't moving on. This was something else entirely. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Dad. "Found your charger on the counter. Did you stop by?" So he didn't know, or he was playing dumb. Either way, I had to respond now or it looked weird.
Yeah, sorry. Didn't want to interrupt. You guys seemed busy. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared.
Appeared again, disappeared. Finally, a response. We had some friends over. Would have introduced you. Next time, don't rush off. Friends, right. Friends who hung out shirtless. In the kitchen, while an orgy happened in the next room. I wanted to scream. Instead, I typed back, sure, talk tomorrow. But I knew I couldn't. What would I even say? I tried to sleep, but every time I closed my eyes, I saw those men in the kitchen, heard Linda's theatrical moaning, heard my father's voice encouraging whoever was with her. My brain wouldn't shut off, wouldn't stop analyzing and replaying and trying to make sense of something that defied all sense. Around 2 a.m, I gave up and opened my laptop. My fingers moved before my brain could stop them, typing words into the search bar I never thought I'd associate with my father. Swinging, open marriage, lifestyle couples, page after page loaded, forums, articles, blogs, a whole subculture I'd been completely ignorant about, populated by normal-looking people who smiled in their profile pictures and talked about the lifestyle like it was joining a gym or taking up pottery. Some of them were my parents' age, older even, suburban couples who looked like they'd be discussing their 401 kiloseconds and lawn care, not partner swapping. I read testimonials from women who raved about how swinging had saved their marriages, brought them closer to their husbands, made them feel alive again. From men who talked about trust and communication and watching their wives with other men like it was the hottest thing imaginable. My stomach churned. This was my father they were describing. My father who taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework and cried at my college graduation. My father who'd loved my mother so completely, I thought they were the definition of soulmates. And now he was doing this? I slammed my laptop shut and stumbled to the bathroom, splashing cold water on my face. The woman staring back at me from the mirror looked like she'd aged 10 years in one night. Dark circles under my eyes, pale skin, hair sticking up in directions that defied gravity. I called in sick the next morning. Couldn't face the office. Couldn't pretend everything was normal when my entire understanding of my family had been demolished in 5 minutes flat. My boss didn't sound thrilled, but I didn't care. I spent the day in my pajamas, alternating between scrolling through my phone and staring blankly at the TV. Dad texted twice. How are you feeling? And then later, Linda wants to know if you're coming to Sunday dinner. Sunday dinner, our weekly tradition since he'd remarried. Linda would make pot roast or lasagna or some other comfort food. We'd sit around their dining table making small talk about work and weather and whatever Netflix show everyone was watching. Normal. Pleasant. Completely devoid of anything that would suggest my father and stepmother were active participants in the local swinging scene. Could I sit across from them now? Could I pass the mashed potatoes and pretend I hadn't heard what I'd heard, seen what I'd seen? I typed and deleted 6 responses before settling on, not sure yet, might have plans. Saturday came and went in a blur. I cleaned my apartment, did laundry, went grocery shopping. Normal activities that felt surreal given the chaos in my head. Every time I saw a couple my parents' age, I wondered, were they swingers too? Was everyone in on this secret except me? Sunday morning, Dad called. I let it go to voicemail. He called again an hour later. Again, voicemail. The third time, I figured I couldn't avoid him forever. Hey, sweetie. His voice sounded normal. Warm. Dad-like. You've been quiet. Everything okay? Fine, I lied. Just busy. Too busy for your old man? For Linda's famous pot roast? I squeezed my eyes shut. I could end this right now. Could tell him what I saw, what I heard, demand an explanation. But the words stuck in my throat. I'll be there, I heard myself say. 6 o'clock? Perfect. Looking forward to it. He hung up before I could change my mind. I spent the rest of Sunday in a state of low-grade panic. Changed my outfit 3 times, left my apartment twice, got halfway to Dad's house, and turned back. Finally, at 5:45, I forced myself into my car and drove there before I could chicken out again. The house looked exactly the same as always. Neat lawn, flowers in the beds, Dad's truck in the driveway next to Linda's SUV. Picture-perfect suburban normalcy. I sat in my car for 5 minutes, gripping the steering wheel, giving myself a pep talk. You can do this. It's just dinner. Just act normal. Don't think about Wednesday night. Don't look at the living room. Don't imagine what happened there. Just eat pot roast and make small talk and leave. Linda answered the door in jeans and a sweater, her hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked like someone's mom, not someone who'd been the star of whatever show I'd walked in on. There she is. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like expensive perfume and garlic bread. Your dad said you weren't feeling well. You okay now? Much better, I managed, following her inside. The living room looked normal. Couch in its usual spot, TV mounted on the wall, photos of Dad and Linda's wedding, of me at graduation, of family vacations. No evidence that this room had recently hosted activities that would make a porn director blush. Dad emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on a dish towel. There's my girl. He kissed my forehead like he always did. Hungry? Linda made enough food to feed an army. We settled into our usual spots around the dining table. Dad carved the roast. Linda served vegetables. I pushed food around my plate, trying to eat, trying to participate in their conversation about the weather and Linda's sister's new boyfriend and whether they should replace the kitchen counters. Normal. All so achingly normal. Except it wasn't. Not anymore. Not when I knew what I knew. You're quiet tonight, Dad observed, studying me over his wine glass. You sure you're feeling okay? This was my chance. I could confront them right here, right now. Could demand answers, clarity, some explanation that would make sense of what I'd witnessed. Instead, I said, just tired. Work's been crazy. Linda launched into a story about her job, something about a difficult client and a missed deadline. I nodded in the right places, laughed when I was supposed to, played my part. But I kept sneaking glances at them, trying to reconcile these people with what I knew they did. Dad, who still wore the reading glasses Mom had picked out for him. Linda, who volunteered at the animal shelter and sent me recipes she thought I'd like. How did they do it? How did they sit here eating pot roast, discussing countertops like they weren't living this completely other life? Sweetie? Linda was looking at me with concern. You okay? You seem distracted. Sorry, what? I asked if you wanted seconds. I looked down at my barely touched plate. No thanks. Still working on this. Dad and Linda exchanged a glance. A quick one, barely perceptible, but I caught it. Some silent communication passing between them. Actually, Dad said slowly, setting down his fork, there's something we should probably talk about. My heart stopped. Wednesday night, he continued, and I felt the blood drain from my face. We thought we heard someone in the kitchen. Then I found your charger, and you've been acting strange ever since. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. They knew. Of course they knew. Linda reached across the table, her hands settling on mine. Honey, if you saw something, if you heard something, we should talk about it. I jerked my hand away, my chair scraping against the floor as I stood. I don't want to talk about it. Sweetheart, please sit down. No, my voice came out louder than I intended. I don't need to know. I don't want to know. What you do in your own house is your business. But you're upset, Linda said gently, and we don't want there to be awkwardness between us. Awkwardness? They thought this was awkwardness? I'm fine, I insisted, grabbing my purse from where I'd left it on the counter. The food was great. I just need to go. Wait, Dad stood too, his face serious. We're not doing anything wrong. We're consenting adults in a private space. We have friends who share our interests. That's all. Friends who share our interests, like they were in a book club.